What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video about my biggest gripe, really, about the Pathfinder system. Now, a couple things right off the bat. One, this isn't specific to the video games, which is primarily what I cover, because this is a gaming channel. This is literally Pathfinder's system itself, because the video games are based on that, and so it kind of just affects them by being that system. And to put it pretty straightforwardly, the weapon focus and weapon specialization and all the variations of that feat therein, those are really my biggest complaint about the system as a whole. So if you're unaware, these feats give you bonuses to a very specific weapon type, like bastard sword, long sword, or like a halberd. Very specific weapon types. Not like a group of weapon, but a very specific weapon. And the problem becomes when you invest into those feats, because, you know, a lot of cases you'll want them to help give you the extra attack and damage rolls that you would want. And then you find a weapon that, in theory, would be very similar to the weapon you have that might be nice, but then you can't use it because you have these weapon focuses for a very specific type. Now, in the tabletop game, this can be, you know, remedied fairly easily simply by the DM, if you will, just changing the loot table of whatever dropped it. Now, you wouldn't have to do that, of course, but my point is you could. Whereas in the video games, it creates even more of a problem because in Kingmaker, as an example, since that game is fully released, there are weapons that are less represented than others. One of the biggest examples of this is the Scimitar of the Thundering Bear God or something like that. It's an amazing scimitar. The problem is, if you didn't invest into scimitars by the time you found it, and you might not have because there's not a ton that are amazing at the beginning of the game, but you can find that one, which is amazing late game, but then you haven't spec'd into it, and you just found this amazing weapon that you cannot use, potentially, obviously. And it creates a real problem, in my opinion, at least in the video game space very specifically. Now, in fairness, Wrath of the Righteous did try to address this a little bit, with Finian the Talking Weapon, who is kind of a mini-companion, but also he can take the form of whatever weapon the character who's holding it in has proficiency in. Now, I guess more than anything, this one particular thing always kind of stands out and annoys me especially because it just feels like it has a very simple solution, which is to just slightly broaden it out into like one-handed swords, two-handed sword, like that kind of thing. Like just broaden it out a little. I mean, you can still keep it kind of fairly specific to like a weapon type, but not so specific that like a bastard sword and a long sword are entirely different and it's a huge problem. Now, if it was honestly just those specific feats, it wouldn't be such a problem, but a lot of times there's class features that also kind of double down on this. For instance, the Sword Saint picks a chosen weapon, and it's, again, a hyper-specific weapon. And if I'm calling somebody a Sword Saint, I imagine they would be able to use more than one type of sword, just as an example. Truthfully, obviously, it doesn't bother me enough to stop me from playing the game or, you know, enjoying Pathfinder in general, because I very much so do, which is why I make this complaint. It is just this very one specific part of Pathfinder that always irks me. That's not to say there aren't other problems. It's just that this one in particular really gets under my skin a lot of the time because it comes up every time I find a cool weapon that I cannot use. So there you go, guys. Just kind of some thoughts about something in general I find distasteful about the Pathfinder system, because it's important to criticize things so they can hopefully improve, you know, as long as it's constructive. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.